Hello everyone. Welcome to the METAV web session for the final presentation for today, Umati, Connecting the World of Machinery. If you have any questions, please ask them already during the presentation via the question tab or the chat, so they can be answered after the presentation. I wish you an interesting presentation and hand over to the speaker, Dr. Alexander Broos from the VDW.
Yes, hello everybody. Thank you, Christian, for the introduction. My name is Alexander Broos. I'm a Director of Research and Technology of VDW, which is the German Machine Tool Builders Organization Association, and also the organizer of METAV. So welcome here to the very last METAV web session for this first digital venue of METAV 2021. I'm going to talk about umati, the Universal Machine Technology Interface, and what it is all about. Also, I'd like to refer you to the online trade show, METAV Digital, where in Hall 2 you can get yourself an impression on how umati is working, and we have 11 partners there who show connected machinery. So what I'm going to tell you afterwards is also can be experienced live at the METAV Digital venue. Let me start with one very basic slide, which dates back to a discussion we had at the Machine Tool Builders Association in 2017. You know that we have for quite a while the issue about Industry 4.0, so the fourth industrial revolution. And the question is always, what does it mean for machine building companies, and especially for small and medium-sized machine building companies? And when you go to the top, you see that basically what everybody wants to do is to make business based on data, based on what we call digital economy or platform economy. But the prerequisite to have software to be able to make a digital service is that you have data connectivity on the very bottom. So you need to get data in and out of machines. And then certainly you have some infrastructure in between, which means you need, first of all, somebody who sets up your network, which can be on-premise or which can be a telephone or WAN network, which is provided by a telecommunications provider. Then certainly you have some level where you have to deposit the data to make it accessible, which is platform infrastructure. Platform infrastructure certainly is something where companies like Google, Amazon Warehouse, and Microsoft with Azure dominate the market. Then on top you have a platform service, which is an application or something that makes in the end the data accessible and helps the customer to get added value from the data. So while building this kind of software service is highly competitive, doing everything along the infrastructure chain is certainly a buy decision, which means you need partners who are able to provide networks, who provide scalable platform infrastructure and the like. And certainly we have one very basic feature, which is pure connectivity. And connectivity is simply not a matter of distinction, but it is a matter of having a universal interface, which is probably or hopefully in use by everybody. So it doesn't make sense to have proprietary interfaces. And as there is no competition, that should also be a field of collaboration to settle things for the entire machinery market, and not leave that to the bigger hyperscalers that are already dominating the infrastructure markets. So when I now come to the shop floor, probably everybody of you who operates a machinery shop knows that he has a variety of machinery from a variety of manufacturer, usually with a variety of controllers and in the end a variety of interfaces, which means that these devices, the machines and the software do not necessarily understand each other from the beginning. And if you want to integrate that into your IT ecosystem, this can be quite challenging. And in the end, it's usually always solved by engineering of specific interfaces, by some development issues which are costly. And to get that straightened out, we see that there is two facets that need to be solved. And the one is the standardization of these interfaces. And we think that OPC UA is a very elegant solution for that. But the second thing is, when you have a standard, you don't have the standard in the market yet. And this means you need somebody who does marketing, who does dissemination, who penetrates the market together with the users of this technology, and also who builds a community around these open interfaces. And this is what umati is about. And I'm going to go a little bit more in the details of these two facets before I then explain what the benefits and the vision of umati actually is. So when we start looking at standardization via OPC-UA, OPC-UA is a communication framework for interoperability of technical devices, which means it delivers a communication framework. And when I draw an analogy to human language, it's basically like if we say, okay, let's agree that we talk in a certain language. So in this case, we agree on using the English language. And that means we have to have some very basic knowledge about grammar, about syntax, about semantics, about basic vocabulary. And so in the end, also, we have to agree that for the moment, we have the audio channel, which means I speak, you listen. And we agree that for questions, we use the writing channel or the text channel, which means you write and Christian reads the questions then on the audio channel back to the community. So basically, OPC-UA builds a framework that allows us, or the devices, to set definitions how to communicate with each other. This is not enough, however, to really get a satisfactory communication in the field. This is the same here. I suppose we have about 20 participants now. I would assume it's mostly people with an engineering background, with a manufacturing background. So when I talk about certain things in the manufacturing environment, you all probably, or we all have the same dictionary. If I want to bring the same context across to maybe lawyers or to maybe medicists, I need a different professional dictionary. And so with OPC-UA, there is a so-called companion specification that can be a device technology specifically. And this is basically defining what the devices should be communicating. So a machine tool has different needs, for example, of spindle speeds or tools, whereas a die press maybe is interested in temperatures and pressure for closing the die and stuff like that. So we need this dictionary. And when we have the basic communication definitions and the user dictionaries, then we have something which is called semantic interoperability. About these user dictionaries, I borrowed a little slide here from our friends at VDMA. And you see VDMA is the German Mechanical Engineering Association. And they represent about 38 sectors of machine building industries. And within these sectors, you have at the moment about 36 work groups that deal with defining this kind of technology-specific dictionary. And when you look to the right top is machine tools. So we have already a released companion specification. So to say the user dictionary for machine tools is already ready and published. The same is true for machine vision. The same is true for a multitude of machinery in the plastics and rubbery machinery, for robotics, for packaging and weighing. But there's a whole bunch more under development. So in the end, you will have a variety of these 36 specifications. And what you need to do, first of all, is to start harmonization. And we started that with the so-called OPC-UA for machinery, which means in all of these 36 specifications, you will have certain items that might be similar or even exactly the same for all machinery. And the most placative example is identification. So a machine that has a year of build, a serial number, a manufacturer name, a type specification, and so on. This need not be different for all technology, but this should be harmonized across all technology. And so from these work groups, we started harmonized standards, which we put on top or on bottom, depending on how you look at it, that specify certain things which should be used across all these technologies. Nonetheless, the multitude of technologies is required, the multitude of specifications, simply because the field of machine building and the different types of machinery and technology have such a great variety that it would be utopic to create the worldwide standard that includes all machinery. So we have to have a bottom-up approach, which are these different companion specifications, and then we have a top-down approach, which means harmonization. And probably as time goes by, we will see more harmonization and thus a little flattening out the bottom-up approach, but we can't do the one without the other. As maybe just for one slide here, as we are talking on a machine tool trade show, the OPC-UA for machine tools, which is published since September last year under the standard number OPC 40501-1, has been created by a working group of 86 companies and 198 participants from all over the world. And also there we are covering basic machine monitoring use cases. And of course, these use cases may look basic, but when you look at it from the customer side, so what does a customer need in terms of data to keep his shop running and to optimize his productivity? It's not so much information about high frequency data, but it's at the moment still the very basic information, like how is my machine? Is everything running? Is the machine operational or not? How many parts did I produce today? So with a very basic set of parameters, and these few use cases provide over 100 parameters already, is satisfactory for a customer to have an overview if his production is running or not. And when we put all this together, and we have the same for robotics and for vision, and we have the machinery for identification, we have this semantic interoperability, which means technically these devices can understand each other. But when this is what we call the global production language, or which is VDMA, what VDMA calls the global production language, and maybe you have heard about this, there's a lot of seminars and talks going on worldwide to unify interfaces in the mechanical engineering industries on the basis of OPC-UA. And this is a very important topic to get technical standards. But standardization always comes with a backdraft, and that means room for interpretation. If you take any ISO or IEC standard, usually it is based on consensus in the standardization committee. So that means it gives you a variety of measures that you can derive from the standard, but how you implement the standard into your daily environment is left to some interpretations that you can do on yourself. To penetrate a global market with respect to interfaces, it is not enough to have standards that leave room for interpretation. Somebody has to take care and fix things across this multitude of standards. Very basic, when you have an implementation, a technical implementation in the IT field, you have to agree on the same way of security. You have to agree on basically devices using the same port or protocol. And even though OPC-UA provides a set of protocols, you're still free to pick whichever you like best, and somebody needs to clarify that for this and this application better, everybody uses this and that protocol. And certainly just having a standard is not enough to get it really into the market. And these are the things that we created umati for, which is sponsored by VDMA and VDW. So it is the bill is picked up by these two German associations. But in the end, it's a true global community, which means participation is really open for all kinds of customers and interested parties and machine builders from all around the world, regardless or not if they could be a member of one of these two institutions. What umati does is, on the one side, we deal with this identical implementation, which we call true plug and play in production. And on the other side, we are trying to provide this global community to promote the use of the standards. I'm going into details in a minute. So what is umati? Umati is not an interface, but umati is there to bring together OPC-UA standards in its full variety into application in the machine building industries. We want to involve the customers in this global community. We want to provide this plug-and-play user benefit. To show and demonstrate this user benefit, it is also important to have credibility and to show live, ideally on trade shows, that this is actually working. And in the end, certainly we want to do marketing together, and that means we want to create a strong brand together. If I show this to you in a little different form of presentation, we say umati brings machine builders and users together. And on the one side, as I explained, we have the machine builders who are technology specific and usually immersed in their own technology working groups. And on the other side, we have users with the shop floor, which make money by using these technologies. But most unfortunately, they have a variety of these different technologies on their shop floor. So already there, you have to bring together one dimension, which is thinking in technologies, and one dimension, which is thinking in overall use and turnover and turnout. And again, just repeating, we want to make this plug and play. That means if you have a robot, a machine tool, or a vision system, they should all function in the same way while they transport the data which is defined under OPC-UA. They should be able to do it in the same way when installed on the shop floor. On the other side, we need to agree, therefore, on identical implementation. I already mentioned, and I'm going to talk about this in a second, give a joint proof of functionality in showcases so that everybody can really see that this technology is working. And then a very important thing is we need feedback from users. So on the right side, the users, multi-technology. On the left side, the builders, single technology. Somebody has to step in and bundle the interest of the users and communicate them on the other side to the machine builders. And there's an old saying by the very old and former Secretary of State of the United States, Henry Kissinger, who said, when I want to talk to Europe, who am I going to call? And that's the same here. If I want to talk about interoperability between machine tools and robots, who am I going to call? Should I call the machine tools guys and the robot guys? Or shouldn't there be any instance which just kind of channels this need from the customer back into the different working groups? And this is one of the very important aspects that umati is here to cover, and this is what we're building the community around. Certainly in a community you can learn from each other, and as I explained before, you need this international acceptance because there should be a worldwide standard and not continental or national standards, and that means that everybody interested should be able to sit on the table together. Just very short and technically, how does it work? So we have this whole lot of specifications. They are built independently. Certainly with umati being established as the brand, we will experience a backflow from information from the customer side that can be channeled and funneled into these groups. But basically, we endorse specifications that are used or that are built, developed by different technology groups. And if that technology group is interested in taking part in this common joint promotion and marketing, we will endorse these specifications and then try to bring, let's say, a box or build a frame around these different technologies on the one side, and on the other side, get some impact with software builders, because software builders should be supporting the variety of specifications too, even if that means that in the beginning you have to do a little extra effort to be able to cope with the multitude and variety of data. But there again, you see, for example, a software maker could be SAP. So who should SAP communicate to every single group, or maybe to a common group that represents all the interests to get some leverage? So this is how it technically works. And certainly at the moment, it is an initiative from the industry, for the industry, with partners being makers, manufacturers of machinery. Certainly, if we work together in implementing OPC UA, everybody can save cost and effort. And let's talk frankly, open interfaces will be also a selling point in the future. This will not be a selling point in terms of making money with that specific over-the-edge interface, but it's more a selling point that if you don't have an open interface, probably you don't sell a machine anymore. So whoever understands this should join and try to get this effort on the road and really get these open standards into the world commonly. Certainly, we can, or the partners can promise or document this promise with the umati partner logo, which facilitates also access to the customers. The marketing with visibility is something we can be as umati organization, be present at trade shows as we are doing right now at METAV Digital. You're part of a global community, and certainly we can exchange information and tools, and you can take part in these live demonstrations that we are showing. This is just a short slide of the umati partners that we have right now. As of yesterday, we had 171 partners. Still, the majority is very much machine tool builders because umati originated as an initiative of the machine tool building industry and had the very first big showcase and live demonstration at EMO Hanover in 2019. But successively, this picture is going to change. Last year, we could welcome a bunch of companies from the glass technology industries that have already signed up, and we are working with other groups. But as they want usually to make public relations, build public relations around their activity in joining umati, this is usually something they will do at the coming up trade show. So I cannot talk too much about the technologies groups we are talking to, but you can be assured there's a lot of talk going on in the background so that this community will stabilize and continue to grow. I'm going to run very quickly to that here and then just show you something live. So the one thing is we build the community, we need marketing, but certainly in the end, we need to make a user experience for our partners that customers can really experience how the data flow is realized. And this means we had to devise an open setup for interested participants to connect to different machinery, even live at a trade show. And to do this, we invented some technology, starting with an infrastructure data hub with a dashboard, which I'm going to show you in a second. And certainly this comes along with the security issues, templates, marketing. And for EMO Hanover, we had this first big showcase with 110 connected machines. And if you go to, I'm just going to open that here for a second, https://umati.app. You come to a website with connected machinery, and you have the possibility to select exhibitions at the moment, like at METAV Digital. And then it will show you a list of all the machines that are currently live connected. And if I pop up here some details, you will also see, I'm just going to the machines here. You will see also that the machines are showing, for example, a task overview over the past time, what has been going on. And if you want to click on the details, I have in here a demo machine, which is built by ISW. You can see what the machine is doing right now, what the machine's name is, which tools are at the moment in the machine, which program is active, and you can have some insight about the machine monitoring, what is going on right now live on a machine. So if you go to umati.app, it's also accessible from all the umati booths you find within METAV Digital. You can have a hands-on look and experience how data confluences live from connected machinery in a customer accessible dashboard. So if I found my mouse pointer, just a second, it's lost somewhere. There it is. So If I go back to my presentation, what's next? Well, in 2020, we unfortunately didn't have any live demonstrations. The very first one on a bigger scale is now METAV Digital, which I just showed you. You can expect something coming up for Hannover Fair. And also we are preparing to bring umati to SIMT Beijing in China in a couple of weeks. And if you're interested with what I told you, be part of it. You can connect to me via the information I just show you here. So if you send an email to info@umati.org, you can reach out to me or my colleagues, and we will be happy to answer your questions. Or thanks for your presence. And if you have any questions right now, I would also be available to answer those questions. Thanks a lot for bearing with me. Have a great afternoon. It's supposed to be a sunny weekend. Stay healthy. And yeah, Christian, if you have any questions for me, just shoot, please.
Yeah, so thank you, Mr. Bruce, for this nice presentation. There is a first question. How can I get the first released umati companion specifications? Do I need to pay any license fees, or are they available online?
So the nice things about OPC UA specifications that the specification itself is freely available worldwide. What I suppose, you can have a look at umati.org, and there you will find information on how to obtain the specifications. Also, we have a GitHub repository where you can find some details, or simply you Google for OPC 40501-1, and that will show you to the OPC Foundation's repository, where you can freely download the specification. Usually you have to register yourself first, but I think that's okay. So because folks want to know who is downloading what, but in the end it's for free.
So thank you. So if there are any more questions, please just use the chat or use the question tab. There's one more. When I implement an OPC UA specification, am I limited to the specified parameters, or can I extend it with my own ones? For example, I have a very special machine which has some additional ones.
Okay, so certainly we know that in practice, every customer project is different, and it's not really the odd customer, but quite regularly that customers will have specific needs for data. And the good thing is OPC UA leaves an open framework where you can add customer-specific data into the overall framework. Certainly you have to specify for yourself the semantics, but in general, OPC UA is open to ship out this data also through a common communications channel. So that is no problem. In the end, also, if you come across certain specific data regularly, why don't you get back with us? So because we assume that as umati keeps growing, as the specification development is growing, there will be future demands for information that could then also be integrated into the standard. But as a standard is never finished, if you have any specific needs right now, you can do whatever you're required to do.
So many thank you. As there are
Great.
no more questions, I thank you, Mr. Bruce, again for your presentation, and I will thank also all the participants for staying here. And I say goodbye. Have a nice weekend.
Bye-bye.
Bye.